And Lama means, it means there are a definable, finite number of steps or things that one must do to move from being suffering and unhappy to being not suffering and totally happy. And that's the goal of a religion. That's the goal of a religion. The goal of a religion is to bring the practitioner to perfect happiness. And some people hear that and they go, "Well, that's so selfish. I thought religion is supposed to be about not being selfish." And indeed it is. Religion is about not being selfish, which will make you happy. And so whether you like it or not, by being unselfish, by being, it will result in your happiness, whether you like it or not. But most people think that the way to be happy is to be selfish, especially most people living in the modern Western world, where we've lost really any kind of moral compass, mostly, and we're just kind of randoming around at the whim of our desires, which are fostered at every turn by consumer capitalism and by the powers that be that keep us wanting things all the time, keep us desiring, keep us unsatisfied, and keep us buying and shopping. And always thinking, well, if only I got one more thing, I'd be happy. If I only got one more thing, and there's never an end to that. And that's not how you get happy. And as I was saying on Tuesday night, we should, at this point, as a culture, as a people, as people in this room, should wise up to that. What is our excuse? After 50 years of being led around by the nose by consumer capitalism, always wanting more, when are we going to wise up and realize it isn't in the things? It isn't in the money, it isn't in the vacations, it isn't in more and more, gigs on the iPod. It isn't in, happiness doesn't lie outside of ourselves. It isn't something we can buy. It isn't something we can acquire. It isn't something that we can get if we got a really big promotion on the job. See, it's not in things outside of ourselves. So the opposite of the method for achieving happiness is to worry about yourself all the time. It's the opposite. It's why we are unhappy, is because we're worried about ourselves all the time and our own happiness. It's very paradoxical in a way, because we do want to be happy. We are driven by our desire to be happy. I mean, many, many, many people have come to this conclusion. Not just it's not just a Buddhist sort of insight. This has been understood for thousands of years, actually. And Sigmund Freud, and more recently, William James, the great psychologists, the great founders of modern psychology have also realized that the fundamental drive of human beings is the drive to be happy. The will to be happy. I want to just be happy and avoid pain. Be happy and avoid pain. So it's not like we don't want to be happy. Everything that we do, from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep at night, is designed to try to bring us happiness and to minimize our pain, minimize our unhappiness. And so we are trying, but we're looking for it in all the wrong places. And we're driven by our desire to be happy, but we're also driven by the selfishness that completely undermines and undercuts the desire to be happy. Completely undercuts it. Because we're worried about ourselves all the time, we constantly create the causes for more unhappiness instead of happiness. So in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, one of the great classics of the Mahayana tradition, and indeed of world religious literature, very, very famous verse. All happiness in the world, he says. In the Sanskrit, it means here, right here in the world. So not all happiness in some pie in the sky, heaven, where there's, golden streets and pearly gates. Here, all happiness in the world comes from worrying about the happiness of others. All your happiness will come when you worry about happiness of others and try to make sure other people are happy. All unhappiness in the world comes from worrying about your own happiness all the time. And then people hear that and they go, well, that's all like balled up. That's so paradoxical. That's like all mixed up somehow. Inverted. And it's not, the truth is not inverted. We're inverted. See, our ignorance is very deep. We are not just a little bit wrong. We're really, really wrong. See, 180 degrees wrong. We are completely turning things around. And many sort of religious texts suggest that. In the Yoga Sutra, they say yogash, the yoga the principle of yoga, the definition of yoga. Yoga is chitta vritti nirodha, to stop, nirodha, the mind, the chitta, from turning things inside out and upside down. And one way that we do that is thinking that we'll be happy by worrying about ourselves all the time. And that is our chitta has just vrittied something. Our chitta, our mind has just turned things around. Totally turned things around. It is the principle of karma. The principle of karma is what goes around comes around. Maybe you've heard that. Maybe which scripture said that? You see, it's not like this is unfamiliar to us. In modern life, it's a universally recognized principle that you shall reap what you sow. What goes around comes around. What you put out will come back to you. All the religious traditions have taught it, and it has managed somehow to survive even in secular life. We have some vague recognition that this is the case. The religions have always taught that this is the case. And so, if you want to be happy, you have to make other people happy. What goes around comes around. You shall be happy, you shall reap what you sow. Means if you've paid attention to other people's needs, if you've lived an altruistic life, if you've led a life other-directed instead of self-directed, everything will be fine for you. But we don't really believe that, you see. We don't really believe it. We are driven by our baser habits. Baser means unreflective. We don't think about them. And they're just habits. The purpose of a religious life is to teach the true method for happiness. And the true method to achieve happiness is to stop worrying about your happiness all the time and worry about the happiness of others, which will lead you to happiness, which will then make you completely able to help others because you will be happy. So again, it's not a selfish goal. It is a very, very important goal. You can't help other people until you are no longer in need of help. So I always say, you're either a helper or a helpee. When you're a helpee, then, it means like, I'm unhappy. What are you going to do about me? Aren't you going to fix me? What about my needs? Let's talk about my needs some more. And that's a helpee. That's somebody who's living a life, always asking for help from others. And your job as a decent human being is to become a helper. And you can't be a helper while you're a helpee. So we have to learn how to become helpers by stop being helpees. You see what I mean? So how do we stop being a helpee? Well, we start learning to be helpers. You see? And instead of all the time, what about me, what about me, what about me, start training ourselves to think, well, what about someone else? What can I do for someone else? And if you even get a little bit of practice in this, it's amazing how quickly it works. In a way you could say it works in the moment even. Because if you're not thinking about you can't be thinking about your own unhappiness. Right? If you're not thinking about you're not doting over your own unhappiness anymore. Because you got somebody else in mind, you see. So in a way you could say it works instantaneously to make you happier. Because you're not thinking about how unhappy you are. You see, you get a little relief from you.